It is John Barnes. It's good to have you here tonight. Now, we're talking UFOs and space aliens tonight. My guest is someone who knows more than most about such things. Richard Hall runs the website richplanet.com, and he says the truth is out there. Richard, good evening.
Good evening, John.
How are you doing tonight?
I'm very well indeed, thank you.
Excellent. A few things to talk about tonight then Richard, but let's kick off with UFOs then. What was it that got you interested in the subject in the first place?
Well, that was back in the early 1990s when I heard somebody called Bob Lazar on a radio program, and he claimed to have worked for the U.S. military, in particular the U.S. Navy, and he claimed that he worked on a flying disc which the American government had acquired from aliens, and his job as a physicist in that program was to basically try and figure out how its propulsion system worked. And I read quite a lot about how he described the technology, etc., and that's what got me hooked initially. And then more latterly, the Disclosure Project, which is an American pressure group effectively, had a conference in 2001, just before 9/11, and they brought forward many, many witnesses, highly credible military and intelligence people whose statements were just, frankly, out of this world. And that's what's convinced me, the whistleblowers' testimony that the U.S. government have a technology that they have acquired from aliens.
Now, you're absolutely convinced, aren't you, Richard, that aliens exist and that they live among us, especially in the desert in Southwest America? Yeah. I mean, there's believed to be, several underground bases, some of which are either in the past or are now shared with ETs. One of those is at a place called Dulce. There are believed to be two huge ones underneath the Pacific Oceans. Now, these are not admitted to by governments, but if you read books by people like Timothy Good, who is an extremely thorough and credible researcher, you come away with it, and there's no doubt in your mind that this is going on, and it's covered up. I have talked to Timothy Good in the past, and he is somebody who comes across as being very credible.
He is. I interviewed him about 4 weeks ago, and one of the things that he told me was that his research, where he has got reliable witnesses, he believed that President Kennedy in 1961 insisted that he viewed the alien bodies which were recovered in one of the UFO, now I won't say crash because they were possibly shot down, but UFO recovery. And he was
This is the famous Roswell incident, is it?
There was another UFO recovered in 1948 at a place called Aztec, where the craft was fully intact, and there were more bodies in that one than there were in the Roswell crash. So who knows where these bodies were from, but Kennedy wanted to see them, and he was taken on a top-secret mission on Air Force One to Tyndall Air Force Base, where he viewed the bodies. And Tim Good believes that Kennedy was getting ready to disclose this information to the public before his assassination.
Now, Richard, we've talked about this before, and I know you believe this absolutely, but when you come out with some of this stuff, and you talk to some people about it, do they think you're a bit nutty?
I don't know.
Yeah, be honest with me, Richard.
People say that directly, because I tend not to focus too much on the outlandish claims. I try to stick with what reliable people have said. For example, last summer, Dr. Edgar Mitchell, sixth man on the moon, said that the Roswell event was real and that it had been covered up for 60 years by the U.S. government. Now, just consider somebody like Ed Mitchell for a second. He has a huge reputation as an astronaut. He's been on the moon. What would, if it wasn't true, what would possibly be his motives to actually start saying this kind of information? And he was actually speaking at a conference just this weekend and gave a press conference today at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C., where he's saying it's all real, amongst other people like Dr. Roger Leir, who's investigated the alien implants. Now, I can guarantee that that press conference won't be shown on British television, although it should be, in my view.
Richard, stay with us. We've got the news coming up at 11 o'clock, and we'll talk more after 11 tonight.